I have to talk to you about the 3 lies I told you in the official Canon R5 Mark II video. I told you 3 lies. We're going to start with those first, and then I tell you what I actually think about the camera. You are so cringing right now. Lie number 1. Never in a 1,000 bazillion years would I wear heels photographing a wedding. Let's just get that right out of the way. Now, the dress from Oliva, I will wear that over again to shoot a wedding. It was great. But those shoes, no, I wear flats. I don't have a death wish. And I can't be creative if my feet hurt, quite frankly. That's just the truth. Lie number 2, I told you. Had a ton of extensions in my hair. I never put that much makeup on. It's no. Lie number 3, while I have been printing photos at pretty much every single wedding I've ever shot for the past 16 or 17 years, yes, I do print smaller albums, little 2x3s. The lie is that's the first time I've actually printed a matted album in the 4x6 size. I did that just for the video, just for visual impact, but honestly, it took me no extra effort to print that 4x6 matted album than if I was doing my smaller, typical accordion 2x3 albums. So I think I might actually adopt that and bring that on. Anyway, I haven't actually looked through all these pictures too much yet. I wanted my first reaction to be with all of you and to look at the photos together. We're gonna pixel peep. I've got some more really cool functions to tell you about the new camera, and then some comparisons with the R5, the original R5 and the R5 Mark II. So let's just start with the comparisons. The biggest thing when I was actually shooting that I noticed with these cameras, it's with the EVF. The EVF, it's not only bigger when you compare it to the original R5, but it is more of an anti-fog thing. So if you shoot in really humid situations like I do in New Jersey, there's extra, I don't know if it's anti-fog coating or anti-fog technology. They got rid of the fog that humidity will cause, or at least how impactful it will be when you're looking through the EVF, which is great. Another thing that's amazing about this EVF is the eye control autofocus. Now, I've been using that since the R3, and it was okay. This, faster, way more accurate. I calibrated it probably 20 to 25 times to my eye, different lighting scenarios, horizontal, vertical, but it did a phenomenal job, to the point where I know when I get this camera and get to keep it, and they don't pry it from my cold, dead fingers later today, I know I'm gonna actually use that during jobs much more often. I'll use it absolutely during the dances, because dancing, you know, you want to focus on the couple, you want to focus on the people around, and you kind of bounce around all over the place. I'll definitely use it there, but I think I'll start using it throughout the day, especially if I'm trying to focus on an object, maybe that's in the foreground and not so much the face. It just tells the camera a little bit more about what I'm thinking. It's like a mini Neuralink. I don't know if you've seen Atlas yet. No, just look it up. Eventually, that's probably what's going to happen with these cameras. But until then, it's doing a really good job thinking along with me. So that was probably the biggest thing that I noticed. The other interesting thing is it sounds different. Actually, I didn't put these two side by side, and I wanted to do that. The mechanical shutter sounds different on both of them. So here's the R5. There's no card in here. I can't shoot anything. BRB.
One eternity later.
Now's a great time to tell you about Lexar. So not only did I shoot on Lexar cards, but we have to talk about the type of card specifically. I have a preview here. This card is not coming out for about 2 months. This is the new Lexar Professional 1 terabyte card, and you can see the read and write speed. Super high, 3700, 3400. This is a really fast card, in addition to having a lot of space on it, which you definitely need for a 45 megabyte file camera. Do you need a terabyte? No, but it's just nice to have all that space. But the other card that I shot within the SD slot, I really want to talk about this one because this is the V90. You see where it says V90 on there. This card is important to have if you plan on shooting video to the SD card slot. That is going to be able to handle the video that comes out of the R5 Mark II beautifully. And then of course I downloaded all of these photos onto my Lexar SSD drive. I was able to edit everything right off of there, no problems, super fast, trustworthy cards that are absolutely a necessity when you're photographing professionally with a camera like this one. So Lexar is it for me. Okay, let's listen to the mechanical shutter of the R5. Okay, and then listen to it on the R5 Mark II. Oh, it's so much like deeper, right? It's richer. It's got more bass. I feel like I know what I'm doing more with this camera just because it sounds better. Some of the other things that I noticed between the two cameras, this is where I need to jump into these images. Let me show you this image I shot at 32,000, not 3,200, 32,000. The biggest things I want to show you, and I believe I already selected it because I did go through a little bit. Some of these dancing photos, yeah, this one. So what was happening here? We were shooting the promo video for Canon, which super huge honor, like highlight of my career thus far. But I couldn't shoot flash for these dancing photos while they're taking video of me because it's, you know, we'll fully in the flash later, we'll put it in later, but having the actual flash firing during those shots just isn't going to create clean video for what we wanted. So I still had to take pictures. What I did is I turned the flash off, then I raised my shutter, I think to 800th of a second. Yeah, 800th of a second to freeze the action. I was at 4.5 on my aperture, and I had the 15 to 35, the RF 15 to 35, f2.8L USM lens. So I wanted to still take photos, freeze the action. In order to get to 800, which was probably excessive, I didn't need to be that high on my shutter, I was at 32,000 ISO. Now we're looking at the JPEG preview because Photo Mechanic does not know the RAW file, but let's zoom that in just here on the JPEG preview. That's insane. That's insane. I mean, I had a constant light source because that's what we're using for the video, but 32,000 ISO, and that's how clean it looks. Now it gets even better than that, and this is what I want to show you. Canon has put, gotta hook up the Ninja, a full-size HDMI for me to plug this Ninja into. Yes. They have put a denoise processor here in the camera. You can do a lot of things when you are adjusting a RAW file here in the camera. You've got your exposure, white balance, all these different things, picture style, clarity, but we're gonna come up to this ISO part and we're gonna use the neural network noise reduction. This is a part that's new. We're gonna hit enable and then we're going to, boop, save as a new file. Now it's gonna save as a new file and then just watch. Let me put this up and we're gonna pixel peep right here. This is 1:1. Once this saves, we'll zoom it up here. You can look at them side by side. This you're looking at the actual RAW file, but here this is a JPEG. So let's go ahead and zoom in. Oh my God, okay, now it's now it's super clear. Look how much more clear and defined her face is. Like you can really see her eyeliner, her teeth, the noise in here. I mean, look at the detail in his beard. That's a weird thing, I guess, to look at, but it's super defined, super clean. The noise in the shadows, I mean, look at right there. See how it's smoothed out her shoulder and that blue line at her shoulder there? This is incredible. 32,000 ISO, and it's as clean as if I shot it at 200. Who needs flash? Who needs light? We don't need light anymore. We have Canon. All right. One of the other things we have here that I want to show you is upscaling. So I'm going to take this picture right here and we're going to upscale it and create a vertical, basically full size file out of this. And what it does, it's going to 2 times the vertical and 2 times the horizontal of this image. So we're going to go into the menu, hit in camera upscaling, select images. You can also select a range, which is kind of nice. I'm going to select this image that I had and then save as new file. So now this is going to save and upscale this image. Watch this. You know, if you shoot horizontally, you can still get a full vertical photo. So I can crop this later to a vertical if I want to. The original file itself was a 54 megabyte raw file, and now I've got a 52 megabyte JPEG. That's insane. So that kind of upscaling just gives me so much more freedom in post, which is incredible. One of the other things we have here that I want to show you is blur detection. This is very interesting, especially since the trend, let's get to some of the trendy images, yeah, right around here. Some are a little bit blurry, some are not, and oops, let's take the zoom off so you can see the actual whole photo. There we go. There we go. These images to me are a little bit blurry because I had too much ambient light there. Those are the ones that I'm like, I really wouldn't want those. So we're going to use the blur detection feature in the camera, and it's going to rate the images, and we can set exactly what we want, really like the AI culling, like, oh, you want your blurry to be strong or medium or low, your blur detection. It's kind of similar to what's in here. So you can see it's sorted it here in DP preview. Sharp pictures at the top, and then the blurriest pictures at the bottom. And then if you're playing it back in the camera itself, it's going to show a little icon to let you know, hey, this is a blurry picture. And of course, there's an icon indicator if you're playing it back within the camera. All of it to help you sort and identify sharp and blurry pictures. For the record, not that you have any reason to be taking blurry photos, because in electronic shutter, this baby goes up to 1/32,000th of a second. And you know, with the low light capabilities, you're pretty much golden. Okay, let's do a little pixel peeping then, shall we? It did a great job. So one of the features that it has is you can register faces. And then throughout the process of photographing them for the rest of the day, the camera knew that these people were priority, and it would have a little bubble where you could see that priority there. It's super easy to register them. You're probably looking at the B-roll of how to do it right now, but that was helpful in making sure that I'm focusing on the people I want to focus on. If I had an officiant up there, for example, a lot of the times when we're photographing, you know, the officiant is facing us and the couple are facing each other. So the camera would typically lock on to the officiant's face and focus on that person, and I could care less about that person being in focus. So this is going to help the camera realize, you know what, no, I don't want that officiant. I want the couple standing in front of them, even though they're not facing us, they're facing side by side. So that one is absolutely huge. Oh, lighting optimizer. Being able to notice the face in there and then brighten it and optimize that light for that face, just absolutely incredible. Eventually, I want to see just all my processing and culling done right here in the camera. That would be incredible. Overall, this camera just performs bigger and better than any other camera I've held in my hands. It's better than the R3 in my opinion because of that advanced eye focus. You know, it's fast. You can go not only up to 30 frames per second electronic, but you can adjust how many frames per second you want it to photograph. And I love that because you just can decide where exactly you want to be and how fast you want to shoot. Because for someone like me, I don't want 30 frames per second of anything at any time in a wedding or even a portrait session because it's just way too much. The other thing that is phenomenal here is just the autofocus. I mean, with the R5, the R6 Mark II, the R3, the way that I would put it is, you know, I pretty much didn't have to worry too much about autofocus anymore once we had that technology. But now, I don't even think about autofocus. I mean, the camera, even without using the eye control autofocus, is doing that work for me. It's thinking for me. I put so little thought into how I was autofocusing because it knew the people that were important to me. So I just pointed my camera in the general direction of where I wanted it to go, and it would just snag the faces that I wanted it to. I mean, there's so much I can say about it. One thing that I did that was completely new to me during this video is I threw the EL5 flash on the digital hot shoe. The combination of the two of those was something that I hadn't done before as somebody who shoots pro photo primarily. And I threw it on shutter priority. So during this scene right here, this was all shutter priority with the flash. And I mean, these photos look edit it. Like, you're good. There's nothing else you can think about doing here. I was using spot metering just as a reference, but I mean, it's perfection. There's no blown out highlights. And using direct flash here because that's a trendy thing for weddings. So that's what we wanted. That's the vibe we were going for. Let's go ahead. Even here where I wasn't using flash and we had an off camera constant light, I still was in shutter priority and it was just perfectly capturing exactly what we wanted here. This is just, I don't even know what I would do to edit that photo, really. It did a phenomenal job. This camera is such a winner for me. It's easily going to replace all of my cameras. Now, I will say 45 megapixels, it is a little bit large and it gets pretty file heavy pretty quickly. So that's a thing. Do you want to have that? I mean, you could always shoot in C-RAW. You could always shoot in compact RAW and then you're listening your files. And I think that might be the way that I want because I just don't need those huge files all the time. I didn't mention like you have 3 different versions of battery grips now for this camera. I mean, you've got the one that's a cinema grip that has the fan built in, the back battery opener. And then you have the vertical grip with the Ethernet if that's something that you need for a little extra oomph. So I didn't get to shoot so much video because I was really concentrating on photos. Certainly loved being able to switch really quickly over to video and then back to photo with no effort whatsoever. And then ultra slow-mo, we'll call it, in 240, like just absolutely beautiful. So I love those things as a hybrid shooter, being able to do a little bit of both for, honestly, Instagram Reels is what I'm going to use it for. But we did have a second unit, a second R5 Mark II unit that we were able to shoot a lot of video with. So Rob and Nino shot a ton of video and they were just impressed upon impressed. The night before, we actually registered my face on the camera in video so that while they were shooting video, it would continually lock on my face during the project, since that was primarily the focus. I mean, also the couple as well. They did not experience, granted we were short bursting and we did have the LCD screen open to minimize heat and the grip, the video grip with the fan. So they did not have any overheating problems while we were shooting for about 8 hours yesterday, which definitely something to note, but we also were shooting in short bursts. So that was our experience with it. All I know at this point is while I was recording this video, I hear Rob and Nino in the office right across the hallway going, "Oh my gosh, you have to see this in DaVinci Resolve. This is so great. This raw footage is so awesome." On Canon's side, they're saying 16 plus stops of dynamic range, which is absolutely incredible for video. It's RAW and SRAW, and both are 12-bit. The full-size HDMI is a huge benefit, being able to go out to external monitors, having a director look at what the photographer, videographer was doing and being able to monitor it at all times. I know the focusing was really huge. Just being able to work with the camera that's producing incredible imagery is only going to make you more creative. Now, if you don't want to shoot in RAW because it's a pretty hefty file, you have a ton of other codecs available to you, like similar to what you would find in the EOS Cinema line, because really they're taking a lot of those capabilities, menus, all of that, and putting it into this camera for all of the hybrid shooters like us. So that's what I have for you, comparing both of these cameras, talking about the updates that are most important to me that I liked on a practical level. I have a ton of photos and videos that you've been able to see here, and if you want a full spec rundown, I've got another video on the channel here for you for that. But this was really just meant to be my reaction to finally photographing, showing you a whole bunch of photos that you can see past what you saw in the official Canon release video. I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot more from me using this camera.